Hello, good morning, LinkedIn Live and Facebook. It is so great to be with you here this morning. My name is Claire Davis, and welcome to another edition of Power Hour. We are so grateful for all of you who can join us here this morning in Power Hour. So if you have a moment, take a minute and put where you're joining us in the chat. We would love to see how far this chat is going to reach today, and we are so excited to deliver you an explosion of value here with one of our leading experts in her field. In just a minute, I'll introduce her, but you know, our motto here at Power Hour goes a little bit something like a little less conversation, a little more action. So our goal with each Power Hour is to give you actionable steps that you can implement today to improve your life, to improve your business, to improve your mindset. And today is no different. So I'd love my co-hosts to introduce themselves first as we're all getting settled into the room here. So let's kick it off. Dan, how are you doing over there?
Awesome. Let's go straight across the board. Hold on.
I know.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Dan Mott. I'm a LinkedIn coach and consultant. I help you build your business through online courses, boot camps, and a lot of free resources. Actually, I just launched my course yesterday, but we won't talk about that. Come check out my profile if you want to learn more about that. Go from there. Matt, down the line to you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan. And also congrats on launching your course. I'm excited to dive in. We could all learn more and more about LinkedIn. As many of you know, LinkedIn's been a powerful tool for me in the last year. So I'm really excited to check out your course. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. My name's Matt Zahn. I show people how to persuade with power through the art of strategic storytelling. I do that through workshops and through one-on-one coaching. Take it away, Erin.
All right. I feel like we should just have something that we're passing to each other. Your turn, Claire.
Let's try it.
I am also super stoked for Dan's course because I definitely need to learn more about leveraging LinkedIn and Navigator and all that good stuff. So, but hi, I'm Erin. I teach small businesses and medium businesses to grow impact and revenue through conversational copywriting. And I do that through one-on-one kind of write with you sessions and my monthly membership email ally. Hey, Claire, how's it going for you this morning?
It's going so good. The kids are tucked in watching a show, and I'm super excited to have this Power Hour with you guys today. I had a chance. Oh, and good morning. Hey, we've got a couple people joining us this morning. Christine, it's so great to see you all the way from New York City, at least from Spokane. That's a bit far away. For the rest of you, you've probably head there frequently. But
We're an hour away.
Yeah, don't make me jealous, Dan. But we're so excited for everybody joining us today. Welcome if you're just here joining from wherever you are, pop it in the chat. Welcome to Power Hour this morning. I'm Claire Davis, and I run Traction Resume, where I help sales leaders get better jobs and make more money through interview prep and resumes. So we're so excited to have you here. And today is a special one because we have somebody who is talking about something that is very top of mind for all of us, whether you own your own business or you're looking to improve your mindset after a particularly challenging couple of years, or you're looking to succeed in the job market. Her name is Lindsay Harrell-Kaditz, and if I can introduce you for a second, she is a mindset coach for quirky entrepreneurs, which I love because I truly believe at the core, if you're an entrepreneur, it's because you're a little bit quirky and you are just dead set driven to put your mission on the map. So she and I had an amazing chance to chat a few weeks ago, and I'm so excited to have her here today to share with you some of the ways that you can unclog your brain and let your personality shine. So without further ado, Lindsay, can you tell us a little bit about how you started your company and what you do for entrepreneurs that is so special?
Sure. Well, apologies. My dog Chase would like to jump in for me.
All dogs are welcome.
So rude, I tell you. Seriously. Question was at me, Chase. Yeah, I mean, this is not a journey or a area I ever expected to be in. I grew up thinking all the Lindsays are going to be in corporate world, and that's the path for me. I'm going to be a marketing executive. I'm going to wear this power suit. And turns out that wasn't for me. Oops. So in 2011, during a wonderful mental health breakdown, and addressing of the depression, the anxiety, and the purging I was doing as a coping mechanism. Excuse me, my dog just burped. I had to start doing some mindset work. And during that time, I realized corporate's not for me. Ooh, well, there goes that path that I had all laid out in front of me. Shoot, well, now what? And you kind of take a step back and you think, well, what do I love? What don't I love? And so I thought, copywriting, very similar. I loved writing. I loved editing. My teammates would come to me and say, Lindsay, can you edit this? And I'm like, goodbye, work. Hello, red pen. Yes. And so I started to just write and then connect with companies to do the writing, because there is a huge gap as with agencies and branding agencies and design in knowing and getting that content from the client. So Erin, oh, you are so wonderful is all I have to say. Like, it's a talent and it's a skill, and it is not taking content from a brochure and putting it on a website. And throughout that time though, because I never thought entrepreneur, what the heck? I'm just doing this so I don't have to go back into the corporate world. You end up learning, well, you kind of have to deal with your own mind, and there's still stress. And just because I wasn't in the corporate world, which wasn't where my quirky value of who I thought I could be thrive, I still have to show up in my business my way. And I was trying to show up as this corporate being because that's what I had been doing my entire career up to that point. And it wasn't really until I stopped, and I dug in and I understood, well, what are my values? What's important to me? How do I move forward without crying every day, without because my depression takes a very physical form where I get huge stutters, tinnitus, so I can't really hear. If you're stuttering, you can barely have a conversation with a client properly. And so it was really having to stop and think, how do I move forward in my way, in my business, and be true to me? Because this corporate Lindsay is not working out. And I really need to, pardon my graphicness, but I really need to pull the stick out that's been shoved way up there for so long that is causing my issues. Figuratively speaking, of course, just to be clear on that. And it came down to going inward and doing the really hard work and holding up a mirror and being so gosh darn accountable and looking at all different scenarios where either I've been wronged or I've been sad, or even looking back to, when did my own light dim? When did I become a shell of myself in my journey? And it goes right back to those early days. And so it's starting to understand who you are at that core, so you can start to step forward in a way that aligns, so that you can start to understand your values. That then translates itself into a mindset for yourself. And understanding that mindset, you then know what behaviors are required to support that mindset and what actions then turn all of that into much more powerful areas to move forward in.
Yeah, wow. No, I love that, because I think when people move from, I mean, good on you for actually realizing that, hey, this path that I've been going on is not the right one. Like, because I think a lot of people will just be like, well, I'm already down this path, so I might as well just keep going, So I think it takes a lot of strength to realize that and make a change. But then also, I think that when people move from, maybe in your case, it was corporate to entrepreneur, in other people's cases, it could be another change, but you tend to recreate the environment that you were in, right? Yep. And so going from corporate to entrepreneur, it's like you recreate that same thing and you're like, wait a minute, I'm doing the same thing. Like, it's almost like I have a corporate job out in my house, sort of a thing. And so what did you do, like, when you realized, okay, this isn't working. You know, I'm in the same kind of rut, and now I'm dealing with this depression, and I have all of this stuff. What are the first couple of things that you did? And first, like, how did you realize that? And then what are the kind of the first steps that you take to kind of get yourself out of that?
Well, the husband's great at helping you acknowledge when your mental health is off. But in all seriousness, no. So I'm thinking specifically. So while I started in 2011, that wasn't like, great, my depression's done. I've overcome. Here we go. I mean, anyone, like, mental health, period, is a cyclical cycle. And I just happened to live with a depression roommate, which is a little bit more chemical rather than situational induced, right? It happens. So what I've started to learn over time is, what are my personal symptoms for when I'm starting to go into that? And what do I need to do then? And so I've also learned that it's very important to me to remain open and communicative with my clients. And I don't start a relationship with a client being like, FYI, I have depression and I may go into a spiral. Well, we went to but
that's awesome.
Right? Like, but I'm very clearly an advocate in mental health. I put out listening videos to talk about why we need to listen and teach people to listen if we're going to continue to ask people to talk. I think that's a huge piece. But it's real, to that point, it's listening. It's really being quiet and listening. And when you feel that overwhelm and that struggle, it's taking a moment to stop and say, what is going on? Why is this happening? And the thing is, you know, we only get overwhelmed and triggered by things that are important to us. And so these emotions, that's emotion. And that's just data. That's not feeling, that's nothing. And so we, in those moments, get to stop and say, what is actually happening here? And is this important for me to react, or am I just in this constant go mode? And coming from the corporate world, you're in this constant go mode. In entrepreneur business world, you're often in this constant go mode. And that's not the point of life. And so what COVID, you know, and not at all stripping away, pardon me, any of the harm that COVID did, because it did do a lot of harm. It has set a lot of women back in the workplace. The stats are astounding. And so that's just another thing that we need to start moving forward in again. But what it's done is it made people stop and go quiet and go inward. And so while we're seeing all these things go up of the searching of anxiety and depression, I don't believe that these necessarily weren't there before. I think it's now people are paused and are like, what the heck is all this happening in me? And it's because everything we've known, any belief that we've had, has been shaken. And so a lot of the beliefs that we have with how we approach work, with how we approach marketing ourselves, with how we approach how are we going to show up in our roles, have been shaken. And so we need to start addressing, what are these beliefs that no longer serve where we're moving forward? And this is a lot of what I've had to do, right? Is, what are these beliefs of mine that are keeping me stuck, that are making me feel less than, that are making me believe that I can't do, even though I continue to prove that I can. Sorry.
I appreciate you mentioning that. No, go ahead, Claire.
Well, I was going to say that, you know, I think that you're absolutely right. It was this great pause that you mentioned with COVID. We were all moving so very quickly and so wrapped up and enamored with what we were doing at lightning speed that when we were forced to sit with this uncomfortable situation and figure it out and sort of let our emotions and mentality catch up with us, it rocked everyone, understandably so. So my question for you is, what are some of those common beliefs that you see when you're working with entrepreneurs that keep coming up, that are standing in the way of them moving forward? What are those beliefs that you see?
Yeah. So a lot of it actually has to do with the copy, and the content is, who wants to hear what I have to say? I don't have anything different to say. I can't write. Oh, geez, Louise, can you talk? well, then, yeah, you can write. I'm sorry. And I don't mean to be that blunt and flippant about it, but it's true. I mean, half the time, because I'm no longer a copywriter, like I do the neural change management for the quirky entrepreneurs. And then I'm also still supporting, I'm a brand strategist for family businesses and generational transition of ownership. But it 9 times it's just translation, because everybody knows what they want to say. And then it's just pulling that out and putting it in a way that makes sense with flow. And we need to stop that fear of that cursor. So yeah, you can write. No one knows you better than you. No one knows your audience better than you, other than your audience. And so that's the biggest thing is I can't write. Baloney. You can talk. That's a big one. And then that's probably the biggest one I come up against. And the other one is, these are my values. And I'm coming off quite harsh this morning. And I'm like, and I say,
okay.
Are they your values? Because tell me, like, show me the actions, because this is something, and I did this for years too, until I really understood what the heck a value is. And values are not these fluffy marketing statements, which we see slapped on corporate walls time again. I myself have done it. I can regurgitate the values that were in the company I was in my 20s, but I can't tell you what the actions are. And so that's a big hurdle is a lot of companies, when they come to content, when they come to branding or strategy, they think it's all marketing fluff. Well, I'm here to tell you that your values are actually actions. And so if you can't tell me what this particular value of yours is and the actions that you do and your team does that bring this value to life, then that is not a value of yours. I am sorry. So let's get clear on what they actually are in your actions. And then that helps you make such better decisions for the company you are, for the internally motivated people that this is what they're doing already, right? And so it's just starting to bring a lot of, these are hands this morning. It's shining a lot of lights on ourselves, on our actions, on the dissonance between our words and our actions, and where is that misalignment and how do we bring that together? And that's more often than not what clients just need help with is, here's what I'm saying, but I'm not doing. Okay, so how do we then get that together? I use sound effects too.
There you go. Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. I want to dive a little deeper, just because I think it's really important. So last week you posted on LinkedIn something that I thought was fascinating. I'm not going to read the entire post, but I think the biggest part of it is you said mirrors don't have to be our bullies. You also went on to say someone who chose to move forward, rewrite my story, and use the mirror as a tool for healing rather than destruction. I know just how powerful the right mirror can be. So one of the things I find interesting, we're talking about the great pause regarding COVID. I've had the opportunity over the last few years to work with some incredible clients. Some of these individuals, men and women, have achieved more in a few years than most people do in their entire lives, right? I'm very blessed to work with individuals who have achieved incredible, remarkable things. And one of the things that's fascinating to me that I've discovered along the way is that regardless of how good someone looks, how well dressed they are, how well spoken they are, when you really tap through and you learn more about them and you get them in a position where they can truly be honest and vulnerable, you find out that every person, at least in my experience, has an inferiority complex in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so and I think what happened is prior to COVID, we have a society, we still do today, but we have a society that, I mean, just think about movies today. Some movies today have a few $100 million pumped into them, right? So the graphics on display today, advertisements on display today, the imagery, it's beyond what people could even comprehend just a few decades ago. So we're surrounded by this picturesque, incredible landscape. And I think a lot of people tried to paint the perception of look at me, I have very few flaws, I'm successful, I really need your praise. And then COVID happened, and there's this great reset, this great pause and great reset, where I feel like now today it's much easier for me to get individuals to come to that vulnerable state. And it's beautiful because from a persuasion perspective, from a way to actually inspire people to action, they don't want people that appear to be supermen and superwomen. They want individuals that are human beings that can really relate and be authentic. So I think there's this balancing act based on what you had mentioned about beating ourselves up, looking in the mirror, right, and seeing something that's ugly, something that we don't want to see, but also recognizing that we're all human beings. And even if we accomplish great things, or even if we're on pace to accomplishing great things, everyone still has an inferiority complex, right? We're all in this state of just, we're not perfect. I got done working with a gentleman who has this massive company, right? Thousands and thousands of employees. And we got into this moment of him being super vulnerable, and he wakes up most mornings and he questions how he's going to handle most of the things that come his way. And no one would know that. They would look at him thinking he's flawless, right? So I want to kind of highlight and dive into that, because people that are listening now, I guess solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, that they're on their way to attaining something that they truly desire, thinking, oh, I have to be something that I'm not. So I want you to speak to that. I know it was a long-winded, but I think it's really important to really bring out the mirror aspect that you had talked about.
Thank you for reading that. Yeah, the mirror and I, we've had a good relationship now. But I think, the whole point is it's we're never going to be perfect human beings. Life is a journey. I am not who I was yesterday. I'm not going to be who I am later on in the week, simply because of the things that we learn and the experiences that we have. And so it's important that we take that time to reflect and understand, who am I now because of how I've lived. And I think that's the most important part. And it's just understanding that, I'm sorry, life is not comfortable. Whoever sold us that lie is just not nice, because life isn't comfortable. Life, we need to start being and getting uncomfortable with just being in discomfort. And if you are going to choose a life of being a business owner or an entrepreneur, you are going to be forever in a constant state of uncomfort. And of uncomfort.
It's so true. It's like you've almost,
Yeah. Go, Claire, please speak.
Oh, like you've got to get comfortable with constant challenge. I was just speaking with somebody yesterday, and she said, what is the secret to owning your own business? It looks really glamorous. And laughter for anyone who owns their own business, right? And I said, well, there are parts that feel really exciting and thrilling, like when your clients get big wins. And in my case, when someone lands a job they didn't think they could and have been out of work for 18 months, right? There are things that put you at your highest highs, but it's incredibly vulnerable and difficult. And you almost have to love puzzles, challenges, brick walls to climb, because we, no matter what industry you're in, are all faced with these incredible challenges. And not only external challenges, a lot of internal challenges that I think owning your own business truly brings to light, simply because you have to be every part of the business, and all of your emotional hangups, all of your, your education level, like your achievement level, the way that you measure success, a lot of that's internal. And because it's internal, it's a constant, almost like refreshing or redevelopment of self, I think, just going through business. And, I was wondering if this is what drove you, realizing these different components, and, your writing and then going through your personal journey, is that what inspired you to move forward to go into neuro change? and explore that? And what is that? If you could tell us also, what is neurochange? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So a lot of people ask me, is neurochange NLP? So the neuro-linguistic programming. No, it's not.
Okay.
It is a whole other level because it adds the scientific base behind it. So what it is it's diving in, digging in, understanding where are those limiting beliefs, what goals are holding you back, or what goals do you need, and how do you set your world and your environment up so that you can cue your world and your brain to doing the things that move you forward in purpose. And so while neurochange often starts with purpose and finding your purpose and understanding your flow and all that to move forward, I find that a little overwhelming personally, because it's like, tell me your purpose. It's a lot easier. I find that if we start and go back to, let's just work at those core 5 values in action, because when you can start taking action that you can start to understand how you move forward in purpose. What moves you forward in purpose? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But what the neurochange aspect is for me, and this was a big part as to why this certification was, what drew me to it, is that it was the scientific evidence based on, here's what's going on in the brain. So when you're specifically setting up an environment, you're setting up specific cues that then will build better neural habits, neural circuits within your brain. You're purposely thickening myelin, and it gets a little scientific, so that you can send, hi Chase, so that you can send these neurotransmitters, right? And like really strengthen the habits that you want to support you, to support you in achieving the goals and living the life that you want, whether that be a personal goal, a professional goal, just anything. But it helps you to understand how to move forward in purpose and what is going on, because I'm one of those people whose mindset is great, la-di-da. I want to know, how do I take the mindset further? And that's that management piece. And understanding the difference between having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset is important, but it's what you do with that growth mindset in action that matters, that then helps you move forward. And that's exactly what I do with clients. If we start to understand, okay, so what is happening? How are we setting up your world so that saying yes excites you? And so that when you say no, there's no guilt, there's no shame, there's no keeping you up at night and overwhelmed of, oh my goodness, because we go back to those values. And have you made the decisions that align with your values, that move you forward in the goals that are so important to you, that support your boundaries? And then you can, and this is also key for me, at least, is that, and you're not doing harm to other people. That's a big piece for me, actually.
That's a good value to have.
It's an overarching thing. I will support you if you're not looking to go and harm other people. I mean, right? Like, because I mean, we can hone our minds and our brains to do good or evil, and we can change and grow those neural circuits that reinforce the good thoughts and the good habits and grow those brain tendrils, if you will. And we can choose to ignore and slowly kill off those ones that no longer served us. And that happens with a lot of those limiting beliefs and everything. But it's important then to continue to set up our world post, once we've built a new habit to support a goal. So post that, to set up our world to continue, so we don't easily fall back into that old habit, because that's still there. It's still ingrained. So it's understanding, when are we building habits? Because if you're building them in a time that you're in a better mindset, then you are way, way more likely to keep that habit, those healthy habits, such as running or eating healthy, during those times when you are feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, or I can't get out of bed. You've already built this habit, so it's not really even you having to use your mental calories to get up and push yourself out of bed to go for the run. It's I've already done this, I'll just do it. And in that way, you're working your brain, so you're supporting your future self way more easily than you would if you're just doing and setting up schedules and plotting out things and never taking the time to reflect are these the actions that matter for me in my world and my growth and my business and my career and my life?
Yeah.
End.
I like that. It's almost based on, maybe it is neuroplasticity, just like I'm so interested in that. And so, and I love that seems kind of like where your focus is. It's very, there's a science behind it, and it's not just like, think about it and it will be, it's more of like, no, this is actually how your brain works, and, and how this can happen. And how, we were talking about earlier, when you're an entrepreneur, it is really kind of you out there. There's no really passing the buck. It's not like, yeah, I know, I can't believe the CEO made that decision, because then it's like, oh wait, I'm the CEO.
That's me.
I can't just be like, I mean, I told them not to, but So
I said no to the afternoon off. Yet they still went.
Exactly. I don't know what to tell you. So it's like, so you're right. So it's this whole other level of like, you're putting yourself out there, and then also recognizing the fact that it can change, right? So I think so many people are like, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm putting myself out there, and this is what I'm saying I'm going to do, what I'm going to accomplish. And then 3 months later, that's changed. And then they feel like, oh, shoot, but I still got to stick to what I said I was going to do, even though it doesn't make sense anymore. It's not where my heart is. Like clearly I'm now going in this direction, but I'm not, I said I was going to do this, and I already put it out there. And so I think there's this thing of like, yes, like put it out there, get accountability, like go for it. But then I think there's no conversation around, but also course correct, and it's okay to change, and it's okay to have that discussion publicly of like, hey, tried this, didn't pan out, or I discovered this along the way. So do you find that with your clients too, kind of like helping them along the path, like that is zigzaggy and not just up and to the right all the time?
Yeah, well, and that's just it. Is it's giving permission. No, it's giving people that space to give themselves permission of, I didn't know any better when I set that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and now that I'm moving towards it, and it's a struggle, and it's not actually tied to any of my values, and I just said it because, and I do this a lot, right? That's not an important goal. So do I really need to move towards it? Will I feel am I going to enjoy the process getting towards that goal more than achieving the goal?
Mm.
And if that is yes, then continue to move towards it. If it, come on, coffee. If it is a no, then that's probably the wrong goal for you anyways. That was probably set with a value that was not yours. So it doesn't mean it's a bad goal. It just means it's not your goal. And it's giving that permission of, and a colleague of mine, God bless her, Tawana Taylor, she always says this is, what is it? A plan is a roadmap, not a destination or something like that. Anyways, and the overall thing is you keep your eye on where you're going, what that overall goal is, like whether that be to be a great parent, to grow your business. But you don't get so stuck on, this is my plan to get there, and these are the trackers. It's because, as we all know, life happens. Like, I don't know, a pandemic could happen at any point in time and just throw things all over the place. And so it's being okay to go along the way, but it's understanding that every little baby step matters. And so even if you're baby step course correcting, you're still baby stepping, and that's fine. And this was a big mindset that I also had to get over as well, is it's not giant leaps, it is baby steps. Everything comes down to that very next step. So we just need to breathe a little bit about what that end result is going to be and focus on this very clear next step for us, if it's in alignment with our action, and trust. And again, not easy, and trust that if we take the actions that are aligned with our values, that the right thing will appear along the way at the time. And, for myself, like my purpose, which I do know because I've done the work and I didn't start there, it's not this huge, defined, tangible thing. It's simply to, bring light to the dark without making light of the dark. That is my purpose in life as it stands right now.
Oh, I love that. So say that one more time, Lindsay. That was brilliant. Loved it.
Yeah, is to bring light to the dark without making light of the dark. And you'll see that, like depression, constipation. I talk about depression by drawing parallels to pooping or not pooping in this case. I mean, it's tongue in cheek, but I bring it and I do it in a way so that people start to open up the conversation of depression isn't being just sad. It is a whole spectrum. And what can that be? And then, so to me, it's just to shine these lights on these harder topics in life that have impacted those in my life, myself, and that I think, and, you know, the great supports I've had along the way, including in the corporate world. And so I'm not here to bash the corporate world because I had brilliant support that I'm forever grateful for. But I think that's the biggest piece, is also knowing, who are you at the end of the day? It doesn't have to be this big purpose. It just goes back to these little baby steps. And What About Bob taught me that, right?
Nice. Great movie, by the way. Great movie.
Seriously, I love that movie. Yeah, awesome. and I'll, like, What About Bob is a great movie, and I remember what, like, within my first week off, when I was taking time off from the Big Four that I was at, that movie came on TV, and I sat down and I watched it, and I just remember Bill Murray keeps saying, "Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps." And that was how I moved through and started to go forward. And I think that's the biggest thing, is we get so overwhelmed by, you know, I have to find a job. No, you don't. I mean, yeah, you do, but no, you have to send a resume. You have to make a phone call. You have to do these tiny actions. And that is one of the biggest mind management things of anything to take away at all, is just stop thinking of this big thing. Visions are important. Of course they're important. That's where you end up moving towards. But if that is too overwhelming, what is that very next step? So it's not finding your dream job. It's defining maybe what values are aligned in your dream job.
A great point. Yeah. And I think it ties in what you said about the roadmap, right? So I'm actually closest to Dan. I think Dan and I are about an hour away from each other. So if Dan and I hopped in a car and we drove out to Clare in Washington State and we plugged it in our GPS, there'd be thousands of miles. And as we drive, we're going to hit a road that has a bridge that's out. So we're going to have to reroute. And then we're going to hit some place that's flooded out. So now we got to reroute again. Then there's going to be traffic, and there's going to be all these things along the way. And it's like, if Dan and I were like, no, we have to follow the GPS as it said when we left where we left, we have to, we're never going to get there. And I see so many motivational quotes and all these different things talking about, don't quit, don't do this, don't give up. And there is a huge element to grit. And I'm not denying that. I think grit is extremely important and valuable. But at the same time, like, we have to know when to reroute. I have a friend who 15 years ago, he started a business. Like, keep in mind, we're 15 years into this guy's business. He has the same business model that he did 15 years ago. He's been struggling beyond belief. It has destroyed his marriage, his family, all kind. He is pumping an insane amount of money into something that is just an archaic business model that everyone's telling him, good, wise counsel is telling him it's not going to work and you have to reroute, and he will not do that. His accountants have told him, you cannot continue to do this. You know, you never want to get the IRS involved with what you're doing with pumping money into something. They're going to question why you're not making a profit, why this isn't working. And what's amazing is this individual can post, you know, don't quit and don't give up, and everyone would celebrate that, because that's something that we highly value in our culture, that the essence of not quitting. But there does come an element of critical thinking where if the bridge is out, the road's flooded, you don't drive through that flooded water, or you will total your car and you will not get to Washington. Like, Dan and I will not get to Washington State. So I love what you said about the roadmap, because I think people really need to wake up and realize, okay, you have these visions, you have these values, you have these dreams, you have the purpose, that you have something that you want to offer the world. And it doesn't need to be a very specific cookie cutter thing. And if you have to reroute, you should feel ashamed or guilty or anything. That's just absolute nonsense. So I really appreciate you mentioning the roadmap. We have to look at it that way.
I think that's such a good point too, because it's so easy to say, right? Like, all right, if I'm going to take a different route, like, how are people going to view me? How are people going to like look at me as a result of that? Like, do they see me as going back on my word? Is that going to reflect negatively on me as an individual? And I think we get so right. Like, these are the things that you say to yourself in your head over and over again. But this is a conversation that you're having with yourself. This isn't a conversation that anyone else is seeing. This isn't. These details often most of the people in your network won't see. Like, you get so built up on these things that you have a 360 view on, because you live inside your head 24/7, 365, that, you know, like, someone that you haven't spoken with in 6 months is going to have no clue that this is happening. They're not going to shame you. They're not, like, right. You're getting worked up over things that are just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think one of the biggest changing points for me was when I came across this book called The Courage to be Disliked. And it changed how I showed up. And it turns like Adler psychology into Adler philosophy. But it really talks more about understanding that's their task. This is mine. So what is mine to carry? And anything that requires someone else's thought on me, that's not mine. I cannot control how someone else is going to react if I choose not to move forward towards a goal. All I can control is showing up and saying, here's why I'm no longer moving towards this. And here's now where I'm going. And I think COVID was a beautiful example for companies to really understand, whoa, we've been going way off base. We need to pause. And this is it too, it's not stop, it's pause. You know, so it's not necessarily don't quit, don't give up. But pause to reflect. Are you gritting through smartly, or are you pushing through because your ego won't let you go about a different way? And no one's going to judge. People will be more concerned about the pushing through than the, you know what? This isn't right. I'm going to go and take a new step. And that is something to really value.
That's so interesting. And, you know, somebody mentioned something to me one day. They said, you know, we're bombarded with countless thousands of messages every single day. I mean, if you're here watching Power Hour right now, you have been messaged thousands of times, probably just this morning by being on the platform. So from comments to content to video to watching the news on your way to your computer, the works. And someone mentioned to me, you know, try not to feel so wrapped or tied to every single post you do, or to every bit of content you write, or to every tiny mistake that you make, be it public or not, because truly, is it going to be remembered among the barrage of messaging that we see every single day? Probably not. You know, so it reminded me to give myself a little bit of grace, because we're all trying to figure it out, whatever stage you're in. So, you know, we've got Steve here, Brian's here, Paige is here. All of us are in different stages in our business and our life with our own struggles, right? And so giving ourselves a little bit of grace to learn right where we are and to have permission to do it our own way, I think is beautiful. And I think you're right. I think, Lindsay, COVID did bring, it really burned a lot of this stuff down to, okay, what's left? What's left that I have to deal with? Where am I really at versus what have I been telling myself or worrying about needlessly for however many years? So I really love how you shared that. And so one thing we ask all of our guests when they come onto Power Hour, because we really are, we want to not only chat about these theories, but we love to hear, you know, something actionable that you might recommend for people listening today. And, so for everybody who's going to have a chance to see this, what's one thing that they can do today to move them forward in light of this conversation? What do you recommend? Just one thing.
Okay, like,
as many things as you want.
Where's the best place to golly start? Okay, so I'm a big values person, clearly, and I'm a big believer in defining your values for you, because we can have the same value with a very different definition for how we express it in our lives. Sure. So what I would encourage people to do is, if you have not done so already, figure out what your 5 core values are. If you don't know what that is, reach on out. I'll support you with that. Beyond that, with these 5 values, start to identify what are the actions in your life that represent these values. So for example, humor, surprise, is one of my core values. And when I was doing this exercise, I looked at, I look for funny stories in the mundane. I purposely create puns when I shouldn't. I send funny texts to my friends. Humor is what pulled me out of my hole. It's a very big piece. And so from that, when I looked at that, I was then able to create my own definition of what that is. And my definition also happens to be the purpose of my purpose. It just happened that way, is that look to bring the light. Oh my golly, look to bring light to the dark without making light of the dark. So very similar in how these things express with those definitions, but I understand how separated. So that is what I would say is, what is that definition for you? And how does that guide your actions? And if you aren't there yet, because you know what, values are hard. And even if you type up a values list in Google, you will get thousands of gosh darn sheets being like, here's all the values in the world. And that's ridiculous because it's overwhelming. There are tools that help limit it down. But you know what? I would just say, the next time you make a decision, note why you made it. What value was that decision tied to? And that's how you can start to get really tangible on what these fluffy values, as a lot of the times they show up as, are in action, so that you then can start to take action that is aligned with what's important to you. That's that. And then you'll be fine, and life will be so easy.
Then it's all
everything will be solved. Yes.
Yeah. Life is fine and better than. Oh my golly gosh.
I can really appreciate that.
And Lyndon, do you have any review process for your values? Like, do you have that written down somewhere? Do you have it in front of you? Do you have it like as a reminder? And like, if so, like, where do you keep it, and how do you track it, and how do you keep it top of mind? I have my values right here in front of me. Literally right in front of me every day. And I make sure to look at them. If I'm having a down day, I also look to it and say, have I not met one of these? What's missing? And I know, like with my personal core, like I believe everybody has one core value that is the essence of who they are before the world told them who they weren't. Or before, we'll go into that later. Else another call. But creativity is mine. And if this value isn't lived or activated somehow every day, my energy is low. I am not my best self. I don't show up for those in my life the way that I know I want to. And so it's important that I keep track of these, and I have them right in front of me, including my definition, because they help me through really hard things too. And, kindness is another one of mine. And my personal definition is to do what's right, to do what's hard, and to do it with compassionate love. And so when I'm like, oh, that's too hard, I don't want to have that conversation, I looked at that and I'm like, Lindsay, but here's how you stay in integrity with your values. And you will not feel good if you don't do this hard thing with love, because it's the right thing to do. And so that's how it helps guide me. And from those who I've supported and have watched through this process as well, that's exactly what they do, is they keep it, I don't know if that's what they do, but they keep it right by themselves.
And it's something to just really check in with, and you keep it right, very center. And if you misstep in your actions, in your values one day, that happens because we're all gosh darn human.
Mhm.
But when we have them, we can reflect back and say, why did I misstep? And how can I realign tomorrow? And so it's not about having your values defined so that you can live a perfect life. It's about having your values defined so that you can live a human life and reflect and step forward a different way. And you're going to screw up every single week. Sorry. And then you just get to be a compassionate person towards yourself. And then you get to be a more compassionate person towards others. And then you're just, then this world is just also happy. Well, I mean, with realisticness around it, of course. Anyhow, that was a high voice.
Well, I feel like that way too, we all know we're in the same boat. You know, everybody is doing their best and learning as we go. And that to me actually gives me a lot of hope because, you know, we're not alone. And a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur, it can be a lonely place because you're running the whole ship. And so I actually take a lot of heart in what you said there. And it reminds me that, you know, not going it alone is important. And so one last question I have for you, Lindsay, is can you tell us all where we can, you know, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find more about your programs, and maybe work with you one-on-one if they feel like identifying these values and moving forward from that place would really be helpful for them.
Yeah. So I play on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn with Lindsay Harrell Kadatz. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook as Quirky Lindsay Harrell. And you can find my website at www.quirkylindsayharrell.com. Apparently that's a radio voice that we're just going to
That was good.
And I also, over the summer, so there's 4 more opportunities. I'm running a voracious values workshop, complimentary workshop, Fridays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That helps go through, you know, what values are, why are they important, how can you define them, what do they do, all that jazz in a much more tangible way so that you can then go and use the workshop post. That's my whole goal. And so there's 4 more opportunities. I can share that link with you as well, where you can register. And that's me. That's where you can contact me, and I'm around.
Awesome. That'd be so great. I know we've had a lot of folks here in the chat this morning. It's so great to have you with us. And we always say every week this hour like flies by. So, you know, Steve, it's wonderful to see you. He mentioned reading Dale Carnegie's book about how to win friends and influence people was big for him. Brian, great to see you. Paige, everybody who was with us this morning, thank you so much. And we will add to the chat those links that Lindsay mentioned so that you can connect with her, follow her. Be sure to follow here everybody who's all my co-moderators here who are experts in their field as well, because we just are dedicated to bringing you this kind of stuff every week to help you grow in your business and life. And Lindsay, we are so grateful for your time with us today. Thank you so much for being here and for being so open and raw about your story and really shedding some light on things that we can use and implement today to be better in life and business. We're grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I have enjoyed this power hour. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Us too. All right, you guys, you know where to find us. We'll be here every Thursday at 7 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Eastern at Power Hour. Those are my kids banging down the door, so we better turn this off. And thank you, as always. We know time is your greatest commodity and ours too, so the fact that you chose to spend it with us is really something. Thanks so much and have a great day, and see you all next week.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.